Once upon a time, a long time ago, there was a famous family in England called the Tudors. Let's step back in time and meet the Tudor children who lived many years ago. Henry VIII was the King of England, and he had some very famous children. His first daughter, named Mary, was born in 1516. Mary was the daughter of King Henry's first wife, Queen Catherine of Aragon. But Henry VIII wanted a son very badly to become king after him. So, he married in Bullen, and they had a daughter named Elizabeth in 1533, and wore fancy clothes like French hoods, which were stylish hats back then. But sadly, Anne Boleyn was later executed, and young Elizabeth grew up without her. Henry VIII kept trying for a son, and he married Jane Seymour, who gave birth to Edward in 1537. Finally, Henry had a son to become the next king. However, Jane Seymour died soon after Edward was born. Henry VIII ruled with power, but he passed away in 1547. Then, young Edward became King Edward VI. He was just 9 years old. With his blonde hair, he was kind to the people and tried to be a good king, even though he was still a boy. But Edward didn't live to become an old king. He died young, in 1553. After Edward, Lady Jane Grey, who was said to have brown hair and wore a dark red French hood, became queen for a very short time. Sadly, her reign ended after only 9 days, as she was executed. Then Mary Tudor, known for her red gold hair and strong personality, became queen. She married Prince Philip from Spain. However, her actions became unpopular as she persecuted those who disagreed with her, earning her the nickname Bloody Mary. She died in 1558. Finally, it was Elizabeth's turn. With her orange hair and bright yellow crown, she became Queen Elizabeth I. Elizabeth was smart and strong and became loved by her people. She faced many challenges and even defeated her enemies, turning England into a powerful and flourishing country. Queen Elizabeth I ruled until 1603, earning a reputation as a popular and mighty queen. These Tudor children each played significant roles in England's history, shaping the country in different ways. And that, dear reader, is a glimpse of the Tudor family. Once upon a time in a kingdom long ago, there was a handsome baby boy named Edward Tudor. He was born in 1537 to Jane Seymour, who was known for her beautiful blonde hair and wore a lovely yellow and light orange gable hood. Edward's father, King Henry VIII, was overjoyed to have a son, but sadly, Edward's mother, Jane, passed away shortly after his birth, leaving King Henry and little Edward behind. Edward Tudor grew up to be King Henry VIII's favorite child. While he adored his sisters, they weren't as cherished by their father. However, Edward didn't care about favoritism. He loved his sisters very much. In 1547, when Edward was just 9 years old, King Henry VIII died, and young Edward became king. King Edward VI was a kind-hearted boy who cared deeply for his people, especially the poor. He often shared bread with those in need, bringing happiness to their faces. Edward was also nice to Lady Jane Grey, a girl with striking dark brown hair and a dark red French hood. But darkness soon crept into young King Edward's life. He fell seriously ill, and despite the doctor's efforts, they couldn't save him. Edward died at the tender age of 15. This sudden loss left the kingdom mourning. After Edward's passing, Lady Jane Grey became queen for a brief time. Unfortunately, this didn't sit well with Mary Tudor, Edward's half-sister. Mary had golden red hair and sported a black French hood. She was very determined to rule and wasn't happy that Jane was queen. In 1554, Mary Tudor took drastic action against Lady Jane. Sadly, Lady Jane Grey was executed, marking a tragic end to a short reign. Mary then ascended to the throne herself. This story of Edward Tudor reminds us of the challenges and dramas of royal life. filled with joy, sadness, kindness, and betrayal. Though Edward's reign was brief, his kindness to his people is still remembered. Once upon a time, in the year 1516, a princess was born with red gold hair. Her name was Mary Tudor, and she was the daughter of King Henry VIII and Queen Catherine of Aragon. Catherine loved her little girl dearly, but King Henry VIII wanted a son. He desperately wished for a male heir to take over his crown someday. Unfortunately, the king blamed Queen Catherine for not giving him the son he wanted. So, in 1533, he made a very bold decision. King Henry divorced Queen Catherine and married Anne Boleyn, a lady with beautiful brown hair. Then, in 1536, something very sad happened. Catherine of Aragon passed away from an illness. Around the same time, Anne Boleyn was accused of crimes and lost her life as well. The years went by, and in 1547, King Henry VIII himself passed away. His young son, Edward, took the throne but died too. A lady named Jane Grey became queen afterwards, but she was queen for only a short time before losing her crown. Mary Tudor finally became queen. She wore magnificent dresses and adorned her hair with a black French hood. But Queen Mary was quite angry. She missed her mother's Catholic Church and wanted everyone to follow it again. Mary decided to be very harsh with people who didn't do what she wanted. Unfortunately, she became known as Bloody Mary because she punished her people harshly. Despite this, she had a sister, Elizabeth Tudor, who was very clever and brave, with striking orange hair. Queen Mary didn't trust her sister, Elizabeth. She was so worried that Elizabeth would try to take her throne that she locked her up in dungeons. The people became sad and frightened under Mary's rule. Then, in 1558, Queen Mary passed away. Elizabeth Tudor, Mary's sister, took her place. Elizabeth was a wise and caring queen and ruled for many years. This was the story of a queen named Mary Tudor, who was remembered for her rules and her red gold hair. In the bright year of 1533, a little girl named Elizabeth Tudor was born. Elizabeth had orange hair and was the daughter of King Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn. Now, you'd think everyone would be happy about a new baby, but King Henry was disappointed. He wanted a boy to be a prince and future king, but he got a princess instead. Anne Boleyn, Elizabeth's mother, had beautiful brown hair and often wore a striking black and yellow French hood, a fancy hat with a veil flowing behind it. Despite the king's wishes, Anne loved her daughter dearly and played with her often. Unfortunately, dark days were ahead. In 1536, Anne Boleyn was executed and beheaded because people accused her of things that were not true. Elizabeth was still a small girl and didn't understand much about what had happened. Years passed, and in 1547, Elizabeth's father, King Henry VIII, also died. Elizabeth's half-brother, Edward Tudor, with his blonde hair, became king. Sadly, Edward didn't live long, and the throne passed to Lady Jane Grey for a very short time. But Lady Jane Grey wasn't queen for long either. She was executed and replaced by Mary Tudor. Mary Tudor, who had beautiful red gold hair, became queen next. She wore a black French hood and wasn't very kind to many of her people, earning her the nickname Bloody Mary. She ruled until her death in 1558. After that, it was Elizabeth's turn to become queen. Elizabeth was much beloved by her people. She was clever, kind to the poor, and defeated many of her nation's enemies. People called her Good Queen Bess and the Virgin Queen because she never married. Elizabeth never spoke much about her mother Anne Boleyn, but it is said that she always kept a piece of jewelry with her mother's face on it as a memory. Elizabeth reigned as a powerful and popular queen. Her time on the throne was known as the Elizabethan era, a time of great exploration and the flowering of English culture, including works by playwright William Shakespeare.